In medicine, sometimes the title doctor can morph into being your first name. Patients, nurses, colleagues, everyone refers to you as doc. It's okay if your surname is forgotten and lost in the mix. But what happens when the title actually becomes your first name? Welcome to Redoctoring. My name is Dr. Diane, and this is the podcast and platform allowing you to be a different kind of doctor. To my returning listeners, thank you for coming to episode 5. Thank you for being here. Let me know how you found the launch. I released 4 episodes last week. Let me know what you thought was spicy. Let me know what you resonated with. So keen to hear. To my brand new listeners, if you are stumbling upon this podcast in episode 5, welcome. You are here for a very good episode. In episode 4, let me catch you up a bit. I spoke about the lie of the linear path, how the whole vibe of internship, ComServe, MO, specializing, becoming specialist, it's not for everyone, and sometimes it can make people feel like they are delayed and like they don't belong just because they don't have the desire to follow that path. Today, I'm speaking about the silent crisis with regards to our identity as doctors. In researching for this episode, I wanted to bring not only my own opinion, but other things that I found along the way. My opinion has been, since I failed medical school in my 3rd year and I had to rebuild my identity, my theory is that a lot of people who find the identity in their professional lives are people who were once children who based their worth on their performance as students. I was like that, so I have so much grace for people who are like that, but it's important to identify who you are and if that's your fault so that you can grow and you can become different. Back in ComServe, which wasn't so long ago, it was a few months, I spoke to acquaintances and colleagues who felt like because this time of post-ComServe is so new and unknown and filled with a lot of uncertainty, they were going through a midlife quarter to crisis, identity crisis. Because as a doctor, if you are not doctoring, what are you doing? I remember I spoke to an acquaintance who was even like, listen, I don't have any hobbies. I don't know what I'm going to do in these first few months that everything's still so uncertain. And that broke my heart. It also speaks to the fact that medicine is so encompassing. Encompassing is not the correct word, but medicine can be it can devour a lot of areas in your life. It can devour relationships, it can devour interests, and it can make you feel like, what more is there to you besides being in the hospital? And this is so sad. It's so sad to experience. It's so sad to see, but it's something that can happen. So we need to talk about how to prevent that from happening. I read in this LinkedIn post that I'm going to link down below that from the time we actually start medical school, we adopt the traits of a healer. Not necessarily adopting the traits, but we are trained in that line. Because it's so hectic and it's life that is in your hands. A lot of time is devoted into making sure that you will become the best that you can possibly be with regards to healing patients. Now, unfortunately, what happens is sometimes emotionally, mentally, socially, even financially, you don't develop in those areas because so much time and effort is put towards this one area into your life, this one professional aspect of being a good doctor. So now you finish medical school, and although you know how to doctor, you don't know how to do everything else. You lack emotional intelligence, you lack financial knowledge, you lack a lot of other things. I don't know how it is with regards to other career paths, if people graduate and they feel very well-rounded. For me personally, when I finished, I look back and I thought I knew everything. I thought I was it girl. I could do my taxes, I could do everything. I had a financial advisor on the side. I was like, I'm ready to go. No, I was not. There was so much of myself that I needed to develop. There was so much I needed to learn. I felt like a child that now had a stethoscope around, and I had to find my way in life. What's crazy is that you finish medical school and you have all the knowledge in one area, and sometimes it can feel like you are stunted in other areas. Like I said, so much devotion, so much time is put into the degree that if you are not careful, that's all that you can leave university with. The dictionary definition of identity, let's get into that. It says that it's a phenomenological, I hope I said that correctly, phenomenological sense of oneself as a separate individual, being with a distinctive personality and a true self, persisting over time, a self-image. This definition was taken from Oxford Dictionary. I was just like, I just want to come with the best definition that I can find. My own personal view of identity is looking at it as a brand. I know that's a very overused word that people talk about, but each of us has a personal brand. Your personal brand is who you are. Now, if you think of Adidas or Nike or any of these big companies, they have values, they have core pillars that they build themselves on, and they have qualities that they are known for, just like you and me. Myself, for example, one of my personal pillars is being a gym girl, loving matcha, loving content creation, and the things that I would not associate with my personal brand is African timing. Absolutely hate it. Trying my best. No, I have done my best to rid my system of African time. But yes, that's my personal brand. And you also have a personal brand. So now what happens is, as a brand, you need to align yourself with other brands in order to get boosts in life. This happens because that's the circle of life. That's the circle of life. Unfortunately, your job can become a pillar of your brand. It can become something that you have in close affinity to your brand. But what happens when it becomes a pillar of your brand? Now, to take it one step further, what happens when it becomes a pillar that is distracted in your brand? Last year, when I worked in ICU, I really started experiencing another wave of doctoring becoming my identity. This happened when it felt like I couldn't take off the stethoscope. In every situation outside of hospital, I was presenting as Dr. Tengu and not as Diane, which is crazy. Let me give you an example so you can further understand this. In ICU, it's hectic. You need to be affirmative. You need to be strong. You need to compartmentalize emotions so that you are able to do the job. Like, you lose a patient here, you do a resus there, you have a very bad night, but you still need to stand still and come back for the next patient that's coming, and counseling family. It's a lot of compartmentalizing that I did. With regards to my personality as Diane, I'm soft, I'm sensitive, I'm quite emotional, but I just want to just have a good time. But now, as a doctor, I had to summon up the vibes of a leader. I had to be assertive. I had to stand my ground. I had to do all these things that I myself don't have. It doesn't come natural to me, So what happened was, a lot of the bad traits, a lot of the over affirmativeness turned into like a hyper masculinity vibe that I saw within myself last year. All the fighting that I had to do in order to be respected as a doctor, I sometimes took into my personal relationships. I remember my family being like, yo, why are you so angry over something that you're not supposed to be so angry about? And it's only now in my post-ComServe break time that I realized how my ICU doctoring became Diane as a person, because I was not able to separate the two quite well. But also ICU was very high stress and everything. Dr. Tengu actually became me in every single situation. And I started responding to things from a Dr. Tengu perspective instead of a Diane perspective. I don't know if this makes sense, but there's a place in medicine where people who are sensitive and people who are soft, we do struggle to do the job, because you need to summon and muster up a lot of qualities that are not innate to you. Now, what happens when you're summoning up qualities that are not innate to you? You become very dramatic and very overboard with presenting those things. And it's something that I've seen in myself and other sensitive and soft doctors. No shade, no hate towards these people. Like I said, I identified as one of them. It's just hard to do the job when yourself as a person can't do the job, when you have to morph into something else to do it. And unfortunately, that was my experience in ICU last year. Something else I've heard said is that as a female doctor, you need to be a doctor in the hospital, but then you need to go home and be a wife. This also translates into the whole identity thing, because not all the qualities of being a doctor is welcomed and will be appreciated in your marriage for specifically. Like, you need to, depending on what's your worldview of marriage and what's your perspective and what you believe, you need to be able to compromise with your partner. Need to be able to, the wife submits to the husband, and the husband needs to love unconditionally the same way Christ loves the church. That's my worldview of marriage. But when you in the hospital, as the doctor, you are the leader, your word goes, you are the what. And I've never been married. I don't know the experience. But as I was preparing for this, I was just like, you know what? I think this is also an example as to the whole thing of being a doctor has its own identity. And if you're not careful, it can spin out of control and take up other identities in your personal life that is not supposed to take up. My core viewer for this podcast is to create content for the burnt out and for the disillusioned in medicine. While I was researching, I found this research that was done on occupational therapists, and it showed a very strong link between burnout and your professional identity. So what they did is they took 126 OTs, and they asked them to complete the Maslach burnout inventory and then also a professional identity questionnaire. This research was done in the US, I think in about 2010. The research showed that because the OTs had a strong professional identity, they felt compelled to meet high expectations of their roles, and this led to burnout quite quickly. I will link the link for this article down in the description box and in the show notes. It was quite tough to read the full thing. I had to create an an account on this website and whatnot. So yeah. Next up, I found this article from Harvard Business, which said, what happens when your career becomes your whole identity? Psychologists have a term called enmeshment. This is when the boundaries between people or between associations becomes quite blurred, and the two just kind of become entangled, and you find you are in a bit of a commotion. So now, while having a professional identity is not a bad thing, the lack of boundaries around it can cause it to morph into your personal life, and then what happens? The article also said that a lot of people with high pressure jobs become unhappy with their careers despite working very hard because they end up hating their job. So now when you are someone who your identity is placed in your job and you hate your job, it's very easy to also now hate yourself. And that's the link that the article also described can happen. With high pressure careers, there's also a high chance of high rates of over-identification in that. Why do high pressure fields often have this link of your work becoming your whole personality? 3 specific reasons were given. There's a work culture in many high fields, often rewarding longer hours with raises, prestiges, and promotions. So the only way to prosper and the only way to become higher and to become better in these roles is if you put more of yourself into it. The second reason was certain careers or career achievements are often highly valued in an individual's family or community. Ooh, I can testify to this, okay? If you are a doctor among your friends or your loved ones, trust and best believe that that will always be mentioned. So of course, because you are the pride of the family, because of you're the pearl or whatever it is that the phrase is, you are held on a pedestal, and it becomes easy for people to associate you as the doctor as one, but then also you yourself, you do that to yourself, you know. Last but not least, high pressure jobs are paired with big fat paychecks. And what happens when you earn a big fat paycheck? You increase your life to the capacity of your paycheck, and then you need to maintain that. You need to maintain that paycheck so that you can afford your life, which is crazy. I mean, insert living below your means, but hey, that's quite tough. It's quite tough to do. High pressure careers are just basically breeding grounds for enmeshment and over-identification. But now, what happens if you feel like this is happening to you? What questions should you ask? How can you sort this out? What routes can you take to better set boundaries? Firstly, you can ask yourself the following questions. This is also in the article from Harvard Business, and I will link it down below for you to read. Basically, how much time do you spend outside of your job? Is your mind constantly filled with work-related thoughts? How would you describe yourself? Where do you spend most of your time? Do you have any hobbies that are not related to work? Having hobbies that have nothing to do with your performance at work, but it's just for your pure enjoyment, that is something that's so underrated, and not a lot of people do that. You see, when people ask you to describe yourself, what do you say first? What do you say first? Do you mention your relationship status if you are married, or if you are in a relationship? Do you mention your job? Or do you mention, hi, my name is Diane and I like to crochet? Like, how do you describe yourself? That's something that's so easy for anyone. That's the most easiest question that you should ask yourself in order to find out where you honestly lie with regards to your job. It's so interesting, hey? There was a time actually on social media, I think it was last year, I made a video about how I had a TikTok account, and I was like, I'm here as Diane, not as Dr. Mang Mang, because I'm a person before I'm a doctor. And a lot of people praised that comment and whatnot, but it is something that is so true. That is something that's so true. No hate, no shade to people who have Dr. what in their social media bios. It's a very big degree. Feel proud of yourself. But we need to have a conversation about presenting yourself as your title in every single situation instead of you as a person. Who are you as a person? What do you like to do? What do you not like to do? What's happening? So if you find that to all these questions, everything was leaning dangerously towards being enmeshed with your job, here are a few things that you can do to unenmesh yourself. So firstly, you need to free up time. You need to find time where you are able to do non-work related activities and non-work related tasks. This is very, very hard in today's day and age where work is taken home. And also, something that we don't talk about is how sometimes you're at home but your mind is still at work. How do we create the boundaries that we need to create so that when we are away from work, we are fully present outside of work? Trust and believe, when we are at work, we are putting our all into it. So why do we not do the same when we are outside of work? Why do we not put our all into whatever area that we are in so that we can respect that environment for what it stands for and its time? We need to find effective ways of doing that. We need to delegate. We need to also work with our mind. With medicine, it is hard. It does become all-consuming. And I don't have all the answers, but I'm saying we need to start asking, and we need to start seeing what to do over here. One thing I will always advocate for is hobbies. I am such a hobbyist. Like, give me anything creative and arts and crafty to do, and I'm there. For me, when I'm working with my hands, I feel a lot of stress untangling in my brain, and I'm able to just be here with it. You need to find what works for you. If you have no hobby, we need to work on that. We need to get you something that has nothing to do with work and will not facilitate a raise or anything, just so that you as a person can breathe and relax. You know, when we were children, we always thought that we were just playing. We are still those same children. We still need to play. We still need to play in order to grow. And they don't tell you that when you become an adult. They don't. So I'm telling this to you. Look into your network. Your network is definitely your net worth, okay? I will preach the gospel of your network forever and ever, okay? When you are feeling like you don't have a lot of boundaries, if you are able to, you need to find environments where there are people who like something that you do. This also ties into what I said about your hobbies. Finding hobbies and finding groups where you can do that hobby. Even if it's something as simple as gymming, you know, you go to gym, you'll see the same people on the treadmills at around the same time that you always go to gym, and you're able to talk to them. I think it's different also when you're an introvert. You know, networking for introverts is a lot different, and I don't know how to tackle it as such. I really don't. Next up, it's important to you to decide what you want in life, decide what you want to get out of life, and decide and create paths to get what it is that you want. You are not your job. You are not your job, and you have something that's important to you. If your family is what's important to you, then maybe consider scaling back or taking a different role so that you are able to pour into what matters most. If your business is encompassing your mind and it's destroying your relationships and whatnot, find a way to maybe make the hire, take a lower paycheck or something so that you can actually be more present in what matters to you. Finding fulfillment in your values, in what makes the brand, your personal brand, is what will give you a lot of joy, and it's what will make you feel full on the inside. Your purpose, it is not found in your job. It is not found in what you can do. It's found in who you are. It's found in who you build yourself upon. It's found in your values. That's your purpose. Your purpose is not to perform. Your purpose should just be to be. Last but not least, this whole vibe of your purpose having to be your job, I'm not a fan of it. So I want to rephrase it. Your purpose should be found in the pillars that build up your personal brand, which should not be your job. Your job is based off of performance, and your job is based off of the market. If the market says, listen, we don't need this job no more, then you're going to feel like you don't need to be here no more. And the two are not the same. If the market feels, if your boss feels like I can do without you, you're going to then feel like the world can do without you. That's why your job should not be a core pillar in your personal brand. So yes, my dear listener, that was today's episode. Please let me know what you think. Let me know if you feel a bit enmeshed with your career right now, with the job, with the studying. I think it's okay for there to be moments where your job or the medicining is medicining quite hard, and that is what takes focus in this phase, but it shouldn't be a constant thing. You know, the doctoring shouldn't be number one in every single facet of your life, in every single phase. It's very important that you decide what's important to you and in which phases you to go after what it is that you want to go after so that you can live a fulfilled life. At the end of the day, that's all that we want. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. And please give me 5 stars on the podcasting apps. I hope to see you on our social media platforms, on the TikTok, the Facebook. Oh no, we don't have Facebook. It's TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So yes, until next week, this is your permission to be a different doctor. Signed by Dr. Diane. Bye.